Hey folks, I was trying to find a shady spot to record this intro, and this is it, I guess. Behind me is my pollinator flower bed, and I want to take you through an end of July garden tour. Today is July 30th. I want to show you all the gardens. There are 4 spots and my containers, and we'll go from there. All right, let's start with the flower bed behind me. Half of it is an existing flower bed, the other half was new this year. I did lay down cardboard and a tarp last year, and I took up some of the cardboard, which was a mistake. I should have left the cardboard down and planted on top of it, but I thought I killed most of the weeds and the grass. Live and learn. I would have kept the cardboard down. All right, so let me walk you through these flower beds. I'll tell you a little about each of them as we get there, if they're new or existing, and come back at the end. Garden tour in the sun with the black-eyed Susan vine, which has been climbing on the gate and on the fence, and I'll try to get a picture of it from the other side because it is blooming and it does look lovely all over the fence on the other side. And then I have my row of sunflowers. I did plant all branching sunflowers. So I have Moulin Rouge and Autumn Beauty. The Autumn Beauties are the really tall ones. And I have one in the front that I'll show you that didn't get as tall because I planted it late and I planted it among other things. So lesson learned for next year. All right, I'm gonna move down. This is my little walkway. These Moulin Rouge are really very pretty. And tomato plants along the fence and Xena. The evenings are getting a little cooler this week, so I can see on this Autumn Beauty that the colors are a little darker. The first several blooms were very yellow, or that orangey yellow color. I'll show you right here. And now that these two are kind of spent, let's see if I can get under that one. Those are more yellow. Okay. Okay. This is an Autumn Beauty that stayed a lot smaller because it was in the shade of this one. And this spot gets morning sun. The sun hits the garage, as you can see. But this particular flower is not getting as much sun until a little later in the morning. So it did stay smaller, and it is branching. It does have a second bud there. So, you know, all good information. And let me take you inside this garden. I did have one marigold that came up from winter sowing seeds. And I do have a second, sorry, the squirrels were here this morning and I haven't had a chance to clean up, but I did have a second black-eyed Susan vine that isn't doing quite as well as the other. I think I didn't give it enough things to climb on. You can see some flowers inside. There's actually a flower on the sunflower. It's climbing up the sunflower and the tendrils are climbing up the stake. So, okay, in here we have a New York Aster that is leaning. I need to get my pathway stakes in place on this side. I have zinnias planted among the Nicotiana. More Nicotiana growing there. In the back, I do have a showy tick trefoil that again is leaning in. I think it's trying to get away from the sunflowers to get some sun. Okay, I have a row of zinnias planted among the Nicotiana, and they did come up just fine. I've cut a couple to take inside. This white flower, whoops, this one is a zinnia, and that is a daisy. That is Black-Eyed Susan. It's Indian Summer. It's a lovely, lovely color. And down there we have the Black-Eyed Susan vine and some other flowers from the vine growing down there. So it is growing, it's doing okay. Just not my favorite spot. I won't plant that again next year there. I do have a perennial Oriental poppy that they haven't really gotten any bigger. I winter sowed them, they came up beautifully. Planted them in here, I think I planted 5 or 6. And they've gotten a little bit bigger, but not a lot. So I believe that is Great Blue Lobelia. And I have a few perennials in here that I haven't really seen bloom. So, I mean, it's only the first year. This entire flower bed, this side of the bed is brand new this year. So I will try to pop up a before picture. And maybe early in the season. This other side was planted last year. I've added, I kind of expanded a little bit, planted some new things, but the grass was existing. The cosmos came back from last year. The larkspur returned from last year. This little wall trellis is new. Those are wild strawberries that I winter sowed from seed. So there are delphiniums back here that did bloom. I see one fell over because I did not stake my delphiniums. This is right here. Whoops, not the pink flowers. That's Cosmos. This is an Aster. And it seems to be doing pretty well. All right, so lots of Cosmos reseeded. I need to pull more of those out next year. I love them. I love the wild look on this side of the flower bed. It does make it a little tricky to get through. I do have garden path stakes along here, so it's not terrible. These are my hanging baskets that I ended up putting down because they weren't getting enough water from the overhead sprinkler when they were on the wall on the garage, and they weren't getting hardly any rain because they were under the gutter. So I moved them down and they're doing much better. They are lovely. This is Angelonia and Nemesia. And I love both of those. I love them together. The Nemesia is thriving in this condition. So love it. I will absolutely repeat this planting next year. I adore it. The opposite view, so from inside. And I do have little fairy lights on this lamp. They look a little crazy. I definitely have a spider web there, which is fine. I don't mind the spider web. I have bees everywhere. I don't mind those either. Let them have their pollen. Okay, so continuing this way, sorry, I'm going into the sun. I have a Heliopsis, a perennial sunflower. I still have some dill. I've cut out quite a lot of dill. I believe it's already started to reseed in the flower bed, so I will have dill next year. I will not plant more dill. It did get a little tall and spindly. I need to cut it more often. This is a great blue lobelia that looks like it might be getting ready to bloom. I have wild Monarda, another perennial sunflower right here, branching out. My daisies are just about done. I did come through and deadhead some, but not all, so I could come back through. My clematis is done blooming for the year, but it is continuing to grow and put on new vines, which is perfectly okay. Again, it is going to crawl on the fence. This moved here last year, so I was extremely excited that it bloomed, and I really should have weeded before we got started, but that was a big weed. This is the Veronica. I have 3 plants in here. These have done extremely well, and I started to deadhead, but the little blooms that are left, the bees have been all over. Now might be a good time to go ahead and deadhead, since I don't see any. Oh no, there's a little guy there. Not sure if you can see him, but yeah, the pollinators really like Veronica. I also have iris in here. You might be able to see the leaves. Let's see, right there, iris leaves. I only had 1 bloom this year. It was planted last fall. So I'm gonna give it a shot. The leaves did really well, lots of leaf growth. So I'm hoping next year they bloom. In the back, I do have, let me zoom out. I do have switchgrass planted in 3 places, and it looks like this location got the most sun. This one got the biggest, but I do think they'll be fine next year. I'm not going to plant as many annuals in here next year. I do have 1 lavender plant right there, and 1 marigold. So I'm going to turn slowly, try to anyway, as I'm getting caught up in things. This is my crazy looking Russian sage that has been growing out of the fence. Again, it's fine. There's nothing on the other side of the fence. It is very attractive. Pollinators love it. I try not to hit it with the overhead water. It just gets any runoff, you know, that exists from those sprinklers. So you don't need to directly water it. This is a burning bush that I struggle with. I think I'm going to take it out and put the little Henry Itea here. This is my tree lily. Underneath there is I believe it's a whirling butterfly coreopsis that is very hard to see because I have other things growing there and the sun was a little harsh. There we go. But this one, I believe I'm going to take out a lot of this Tradescantia this year. I have weeds in here because I couldn't get to it when the Tradescantia was in bloom. So I do have 3 hollyhocks back here that, sorry, have not bloomed, but they have put on great size. And my larkspur is done for the season and they are forming up seed pods. So I'm going to take some of these out. I don't need this many larkspur. They will reseed and come back next year. And this is a form of Euphorbia. I'm not sure of the exact variety. I transplanted it from my mother's house. It has done really well in this spot. And it does have yellow blooms. So it is a very pretty plant. And along here, I did have, I had snapdragons planted, as well as a mountain snow euphorbia that is getting eaten up. There's the mountain snow euphorbia. I can block the sun. It is extremely pretty. It is coloring up the white is lovely. There's another one. So they are coming through. Everything is leaning a little bit forward. Again, I do have halfway stakes in here. I'll find the link. They're from Gardener Supply, and I really do enjoy them. They were very helpful. I put them in early. So the things are leaning on the stakes, but there's one. I did get the shorter ones, and I need to get the taller ones, so I could have maybe two levels. We are continuing the garden tour in the back flower bed behind the house. Well, I guess I'm starting on this container. So this container has Angelonia, Nemesia, purple basil, and super Venus. And the Angelonia has gotten pulverized. I think my dog may have jumped through the middle there and taken out the Angelonia. You'll see it better on the other one, what it's supposed to look like. Then I planted a Nicotiana on the corner here. Temporary, not sure what this permanent location will be. The little white picket fence there is just to try to keep the dog from stepping on that corner. Some bachelor buttons that need to be sheared back. A zinnia in the back there. That was a volunteer. Cosmos. Our black-eyed Susan season is upon us. They're looking great. They did self-seed, you know, in and around the bachelor buttons. Oh, I forgot to mention there is, I did plant onions at the beginning of the season in here, and I think it might be time to harvest those. There is one right there, poking up through the bachelor buttons. And then I have a lily that needs to be deadheaded. It did kind of flop this year, and I believe it was simply because of the construction going on and the guys working here and stepping on things. So this is a Salvia I purchased at the 69-cent plant sale, and it's doing really well. It was planted as a tiny little plug in the spring. The Asiatic lily is past bloom. Purple cone flowers are doing well this year. Last year I planted seed, just threw seed down on the ground, and I did get leaves last year, and this year came back great. So I'm expecting next year it'll be even a little more full and thick. So perfect. The Sweet William is past its prime and just needs to be deadheaded there now. Butterfly weed and winter sown snapdragons are looking great. This is an aster that I winter sowed right here, and it is leaning a bit. Not sure if that's a normal thing. May need to stake that, so I'll look into that. My other Asiatic lily bloomed wonderfully. I'll see if I can throw up a picture. This is a picture of the Stargazer Lily that I had planted in this spot. It is not an Asiatic lily. And the garden mum from last year bought in a pot from my nephew's fundraiser for school, and I just left it outside all winter. And this was the only one that came back, so I popped it in the ground, and it is doing fabulously. More snapdragons. Bee balm did not rebloom this year. I did deadhead it once. I clearly still have a couple of spent blooms, but it had a rough season again because of guys working on the siding and just kind of a rough. I just definitely need to do some weeding in the back there. So hard to get right back up against the house. Those weeds really root in back there. And then the Penstemon that this is called Dark Towers Penstemon, and I did transplant it from the front garden to back here. It lived for about 2 weeks out of the ground. Just set it in a bucket and tried to keep its roots wet. And then all of a sudden, this week has been a little warmer and the coleus is kind of exploding. So that is doing really well. This one was planted later than these two, so it is a little behind, but it is doing well. And another transplant, this was a transplanted cosmos. That was actually a volunteer, but I hate getting rid of flowers even if they are volunteers. So, and then the foxglove all bloomed. I need to deadhead. And these again were from the 69-cent plant sale, and I just really like foxglove, so I'm hoping they will come back next year even a little more robust, and then I'll have to get more or plant seed. And my lettuce, it looks like a couple of them are starting to bolt. This just produced and produced and produced for me. Again, bought a small packet of seed, just threw it on the ground in March, and it started to grow when it was ready, and it's been doing really well. Here is the other container. So this is how the Angelonia is supposed to look. This container has fared better than the other one, its mate. So I only put one purple basil in here. It also has a snapdragon, and this one is falling. But it has Nemesia and Verbena. And my hens and chicks, it sent up a death bloom, and that is falling over, and it's falling into the plant, so I will take care of that all. This is the skinny side yard that I have to work with next to my side door. It is 8 to 12 inches wide, and I have alternating snapdragons, blue mousy hostas, and coleus planted in this flower bed. And I think it looks nice. Trying to keep those snapdragons tidy is a challenge. And then in the front I have another container that has some dark foliage coleus, a hypoestes, a begonia, and a houseplant that I don't know the name of. And it is doing well in this spot. This is a mostly shady spot, and it seems to do well. So this is the side of the house. All right, this is my favorite time of day in this particular garden. It is before 9 a.m. and I just love the morning sun coming into this flower bed. So this is my Oakley Hydrangea that I planted this year, and I underplanted with begonias, just a 6-pack that I ringed around. This hydrangea has gotten quite large, and it is kind of getting past bloom. You can see on this flower that it is turning that pinky hue. So this one is one of the older blooms. And remember, this was planted this spring, so it has put on quite a lot of growth. It did well in this container. So this is I believe it's 24-inch diameter, and it's about 2.5 feet tall, that container. And I do water this regularly for this hydrangea. Okay, down here, we just sort of have a mishmash of things. Some Perennial, a heuchera, a blue hosta. There is a fern in here that doesn't seem to be responding well to being transplanted. So next to that is Jacob's Ladder. This is a proven winners, and this was glorious in the spring. It did suffer some damage when the guys put up the brick siding or the stone siding. This plant was definitely in place and definitely did not enjoy that process. I also have a Cardinal Flower that has not bloomed. Again, I think it got stepped on in some of the construction. And my pansies have completely lost their flowers. They usually do really well in this bed. Mouse ears hosta. And then my container is doing well. I think I need to pinch off this coleus a little bit, but this begonia has done extremely well. This is a Tuberous Begonia. Non-stop pink, I believe, is the variety. So that one has done well. I think it likes the morning light. And then Melting Fire heuchera here. And there's a Purple Palace in here. Let me show you. The caramel heuchera is actually shading it, and it's done very well in this particular heuchera. It came back strong this year. This one was new last year. I have an osteospermum and a calendula that I grew from seed from winter sowing. Another container planted in the spring. This was an angel wings begonia in the center here, and it performed extremely well all season. And coleus and hippo pink hypoestes. Another heuchera. And in the back, we have Simicifuga or bugbane. I'm gonna take you over. There are 3 of them. This one here is being shaded a little bit by the Astilbe, which is past prime. And then there's one more bugbane over here. One more bugbane right there. I'm gonna zoom out. Okay. And we have a lupin that definitely was broken early in the season. And the Foxglove is blooming. I've only seen 2 of the 4 bloom. This one does have a bloom stalk on it, right there. Some coleus planted by the Perennial. A 3rd container, same planting, coleus, hypoestes, and a Tuberous Begonia, again getting morning sun. And my Limelight Hydrangea, standard. I have a Super Bell hanging basket. I did have to move the other Super Bell hanging basket because of the rain the other evening. It did get hit pretty hard. So I do have a space back here that I attempted to plant a couple things earlier in the spring, but because of work being done on the house, I just gave up for this season. So next year I'll be looking for something a little more shade loving to go back there. All right, so this is absolutely a new flower bed this year. Absolutely the no dig method. Cardboard is still down. It has not been 3 months. So on this side, I planted some annuals. We have some cosmos, Dusty Miller, zinnias, coleus, and a Supertunia Mini Vista white, which is getting swallowed up. It has done well. It has spread. More cosmos. I did the old, bucket on its side kind of trick. And I did plant both the coleus and the Supertunia in the bucket. And they have spread out. I need to cut back the coleus. It's it's eating the Supertunia, so I will do that today. This particular, I think there are 2 cosmos plants here, and these are the smaller variety, the dwarf, have just been prolific. I need to come deadhead so they continue, but they do have more buds. They have just been flowering and flowering. It's been lovely. And they are overtaking my black mondo grass, which is right there. It is doing well. It's doing okay. And I did order early in the season a Golden Globe Arborvitae. They came as bare root, tiny little plants, and they did not do well. So I took one perished. I took the other out and potted it up. I'm hoping it can grow on and I can place it somewhere else. But I replaced it with these blue atlas cedars. Behind them, there are 3 Euphorbia or red hot pokers. And I have done a bang up job of growing mushrooms this year, just so you know. And just so you can see, in this flower bed, I do have a soaker hose. I did not bother to bury it. I just wanted to water my annuals, and these perennials are new this year, so wanted to make sure the flower bed had water. So I did not even bother to attempt to bury it. Okay, moving along, I also planted a lot of snapdragons in here. These are mostly Madame Butterfly bronze or bronze with white. I planted from seed, grew them, way too many of them. I gave a bunch to my mother, my uncle, my sister-in-law. Everybody has snapdragons this year. It was a bumper crop. Okay, moving back over here, I have a New England Aster that is doing very well. This was planted early in the season. I grew it from seed via the winter sowing method. There is a squirrel in the tree that is mad at my dog. I don't see it, but I hear it, and she hears it. She's not happy. Okay, back to the garden. Shh. Alrighty. In front of the aster is a switchgrass it's just a native variety of switchgrass. Again, winter sown. I grew from seed over the winter, put it in a milk jug, put the milk jug outside, and it grew, and it is doing really well. I put it in the ground early though, and it has done very well. I also have 2 more asters. Not sure that they're going to stay here, but that's where they are for now. I have a nasturtium that I planted late, so it is looking a little sad. I think it's just rooting in, honestly. Hopefully it will have a month or 2 of good growth. 3 hollyhocks that I grew. Okay, moving on, we have a lot of coxcomb or celosia that I planted. I did not snip any of this, and I need to, and maybe it will continue to grow. I'm not sure. My dahlia is not really doing as well as they did last year. Midnight Salvia, and I have 4, I'm gonna step in here, 4 petite pink roses. There's one at each fence post. I do have little fairy lights on here. So there is a solar panel for the fairy lights. Another Midnight Salvia, Indian Summer Rudbeckia, more Cosmos. This is an Autumn Beauty sunflower that is doing very well. Another aster, phlox, and another sunflower. Again, the petite pink rose, Gaillardia. There are quite a few of the Indian Summer Rudbeckia. This is, I believe this is the Perennial wild Monarda. I do have 4 of the purple cone flowers in here. Only 1 has bloomed so far. More snapdragons, more cosmos. Delphinium did bloom. I'm hoping they come back next year. This is another of the showy tick trefoil. It has not gotten as big as the one out back though. Another of the perennial sunflowers, Monarda, alyssum, Nope, I skipped over the creeping phlox. Salvia. So I repeated some of the annuals on this side, the Red Sahara zinnias, Dusty Miller, and Cosmos. But on this side I did plant some heuchera, so I have Purple Palace, which I think it's too much sun to be as dark as it could be. The Melting Fire heuchera, and another, sorry about the shadow, another Purple Palace. There are Foxglove in here, and a lot of daisies on this side. And my biggest issue in this garden has been squirrel pressure. So lots of holes from squirrels. This is a Nigella that is really grown for the pods, which I guess I didn't realize when I planted it. I thought it was going to be more of a flower. And this section has a lot of daisies. So right in front of the picket fence, I have a hedge of lavender. It is Munstead lavender. These plugs were purchased for 69 cents at the Perennial sale. This plant is Hidcote. One of the plugs died, so I went back. They didn't have any more Munstead, so I purchased the Hidcote variety. And as you can see, I was not perfect in my hedge. I measured, so they are planted approximately 12 inches apart, but not in the most straight line. And this is the sunflower that is growing in the front flower bed. And real quick, I just wanted to come back to the front flower bed from the house perspective, because I have these two sections here on either side that come out that don't have anything planted in them. And they will be planted with a cut flower garden pretty soon here. We're gonna plant some things for the fall to grow over winter. And then I think what I'm gonna do is this side in the summer, I'm going to plant zinnias and warm weather crops, so I'm not exactly sure yet. I think zinnias, asters, lemon basil, and some sunflowers. This is the north side of the house, and I still haven't come up with a plan. Would love to know your opinions. What do you think I should do with this section? All right, I am back. I forgot to film an outro, so this is a new day. It's an overcast day. It is about 68 degrees here in Niagara Falls today. I know other places are experiencing some crazy heat, so I am appreciating the overcast, cooler day. It rained last night, so it's been lovely. I did want to say that, as you can see, it is not a perfect garden. I need to edge a little better on some of the flower beds. I need to deadhead, I need to weed, so hang with me, we'll get to everything. Next year should be a little better because I don't have to put in brand new perennials. I can add in annuals as I feel I need them. No new flower beds necessarily going in. I can concentrate on flowers and keeping up on the maintenance. So with that, thank you for sticking around for this my very first garden tour. Hopefully I can do this again at least in September so you can see the progress of the cool season flowers going in the ground. All right, I will see you in the next one. Bye guys, thank you.